people that are in this. It's going to have to be an 8-hour movie just to give everybody a few minutes of camera.
Well, I mean, I was listening to you kind of go through. I didn't know everybody that was in it, but it was like one of those, holy smokes, that's like everybody's got like one sentence to basically make that movie actually turn into something. So it must be just running, say, new cast members. So, or maybe there's just a lot of silent on camera situations, right? Yeah,
we'll see. I'm probably going to go see it this weekend with my son, so it'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
We got a lot of stuff to cover here on the
show.
This is going to be fabulous. And I love this thing. Every now and then you come up with these products, and I figure, who the heck thought of this?
I wish I came up with it.
If
yeah.
you got little kids, or even grandkids, or your own kids. And when they get to that point where they start moving around the house and they're crawling around on the floor.
That's right.
And somebody finally came up with a great idea that said, if they're going to be doing that, let's put them to work.
Isn't that great? Great. I mean, it is amazing. It's a onesie.
Amazon came up with it.
Amazon,
else, right?
Yeah. If you want to watch, watching a toddler crawl across a floor, there's always the fear of, is it clean, or they're going to get their little baby hands dirty. And we've talked about germs and otherwise that children can be able to pick up. This is actually a onesie. You dress your 1-year-old when they're in the crawl. Maybe your child can crawl before your 1-year-old, but a young child in the crawling stage. And this onesie has think of it as rubber nubbies along the side of the kneecaps, along the forearms. And as the child's crawling, it actually will sweep the floor. It will keep the floor mopped. It's almost like a crawling clean.
I mean, they do anyway, so you may as well pick it up, right?
It was actually, when I saw that, I thought it's not really a tech thing, but it is a great business idea. I thought that was really kind of cool. So when I saw that, I thought, wow, I got to bring that to people's attention to go, you know what? Why dress your child in just a simple onesie and crawl around? You can now get them to actually get down to work and start cleaning. Great process.
Fabulous idea. This is practicality at its maximum. I love this idea. On a more serious note, concussions, and there's been a lot of discussion in the media over the last number of years about concussions, not just with professional athletes, but weekend athletes and everybody else. And it's not surprising that tech is getting involved in this. You know what?
Concussions are a serious issue, and I don't think they're taken quite as serious. And I know we talked about athletes and otherwise in the past. You're right. This is actually, you don't know sometimes you have a concussion, and most times you bump your head, you fall down. The first thing you say is you may have a concussion. There's actually a device that can connect directly to your smart app. It will track your eye. It's called Right Eye Portable Tracking. And what it does is in less than 5 minutes, it will monitor your eyes. And apparently, I'm no doctor, but I guess it's measuring your pupil, your dilatings and otherwise. And what it does is it will connect and tell you within 5 minutes whether you actually have a concussion or not. And that's a serious issue, because sometimes if it's not handled or taken care of, it does result in serious problems.
I can understand the technology here, because I know when they're testing you, they have that little thing where they look in your eye and they shine the light in there.
That's right.
I don't know what they're looking at. I guess it's right through your eye. Actually.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
so this is really the same sort of technology, but it's actually accelerated.
That's right. It's doing it's timing the dilating of your pupils. I know it's doing some sort of a measurement very similar to what you're right. It's shining a light in your eye, monitoring using the simple camera that's on your smart device. It does need to be an S8 Plus or an iPhone X or 8 Plus. The camera lens has to be of a certain quality. Obviously, it's looking into your retinal. It needs to measure the dilations, and it needs to be bright enough that it can actually track and monitor this.
So this has come a long way from the old days where they say how many fingers.
That's right. That's right.
Close enough. Get back on the field. And I know that we're not trying to make light of a serious situation.
That's right.
But I mean, it's not that long ago that's how concussions were diagnosed.
That's right.
Or not diagnosed, as the case may be.
That's right. And I think this is probably a lot more. This is something that is very serious. A lot of for minor league sports playing, like I say, and even just regular. You're walking along, your child falls. You want to make sure you check on that stuff. It can get pretty serious.
There was a story in the news that caused a great deal of controversy, and it happened down in Florida.
Yeah,
where police officers actually, there was a dead guy, and they actually picked up his arm, his dead hand, and used his finger from his dead body.
That's right.
For fingerprint ID to open his phone.
Right.
Do you have rights after death? I mean, this was quite a debate.
It was a debate. And you know what? I wasn't really to talk about the debate or the controversy. What I wanted to talk about on Tech Talk is why it didn't work. And I think it's interesting when we look at fingerprints, most of us are alive when you're using your fingerprint, right?
So.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like one of those situations where the case in Florida was whatever the circumstances were. This relates to anything to do with, proprietary privacy rights when it comes to your smart device. So fingerprint, what I wanted to talk about is why didn't it work? And they did try to go into the morgue, take the body, put the finger over top of the phone because it was fingerprint protected, and it didn't work. And one of the reasons is that a lot of these devices, if you can believe it, this is going to sound really crazy and scientific here, Bill, but our bodies give off a little bit of an electric charge. We are technically a bunch of a bundle of energy, as our parents used to call us, running around in a Monty.
Just a walking chemistry experiment.
Right, exactly. And part of it is when you pass on, your fingerprints are still there, but the way the fingerprint reader works is that there's an electrode that's measuring the crevices between the fingerprint, that your body is generating enough electricity to monitor how it knows it's you. When you pass on, those obviously the electricity is not there. Stops, It stops. The fingerprint's still there, but it's not creating the actual connection to allow the phone to work. So there was a lot of why didn't it work? A fingerprint scanner, was it broken? No, it's actually, if you're not alive, your fingerprint's pretty much going to be obsolete.
Good to know.
Yeah, I can't speak for Retinal yet. We have yet to test the situation on that.
Well, that'll be coming soon. You know that.
That's right.
You mentioned Amazon delivery a week or two ago. There's some news on that.
Well, I thought this was intriguing because we're seeing Amazon take it to a new level. About a few we spoke about, Amazon will now come to your house, right? We talked about you give them access, they'll walk in, put the packages in your home and move on. Well, I guess that's maybe down the road. We're not quite comfortable with who's coming into our home, but now you can get Amazon delivery. They're testing where they will actually put it in the trunk of your vehicle. So they will arrive to wherever, maybe it's your work, because you know what? Home, you're not comfortable. That's actually quite concerning. However, you may want to deliver your package to your vehicle, and you can now have, I don't know, I haven't figured out how they're going to give access to your trunk, to open it, or you got to be there, but Amazon is now offering services where they will deliver to the trunk of your vehicle, and they will store the package, obviously within its certain size parameters, into the back of your vehicle. Yes.
I can understand why. All right. I mean, if you're working daytime, for instance, and you're expecting a package, and you don't want them leaving it at the front porch.
That's right. Yep.
So it'd be great to say, I'm at the office at such and such, or the factory, or wherever you're working. Doesn't much matter. But I'm still kind of puzzled, as you are, by how they're going to get it in the trunk.
I didn't get the science behind that one. I was just like, Amazon's now offering a lot of these vehicles, I guess maybe because like a Tesla, you can control your trunk easily anywhere, right? So a lot of the newer vehicles are going to be a lot smarter. They'll be able to
I know
offer that.
I know Ford, and I'm sure all the others have that technology where you can lock your car from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. That's right.
So maybe you can open the trunk too. I guess you can.
I think more on the fact that Amazon's offering that service is really what made me kind of laugh and go, well, that's technology at its best. Amazon is going to get you a product one way or another. It doesn't matter how. In your trunk, your car, they'll drop it off of your brother's best friend's uncle, neighbor. They will get it to you.
Stick it wherever you want.
Wherever you need it. Just keep on buying,
baby.
Don't
use that as your catchphrase, okay? Exactly. Let's talk about Wi-Fi, which is actually on the decrease.
Decreasing and dropping fast. Unfortunately, not in Canada, because if they did, we'd never be able to afford to pay anything else in this province or country. The U.S. is actually and we've spoke about what's the cost of Canada versus the U.S. This is trite. It makes sense. The U.S. is losing more Wi-Fi customers and broadband consumers because you can get up to you get unlimited data access in the United States. So for the sake of going down and going, well, now I got to get an internet connection at my house, an internet connection at my office, why not just pay an unlimited cost with Verizon or AT&T as they are? And now with 5G coming out, I think I mentioned to you the speeds of which those are going to be offered. People are dropping their Wi-Fi services. People no longer are using them in restaurants for security reasons as well. But your Wi-Fi is pretty much dropping by the thousands in the US, and people are sticking to their mobile supplier to provide their internet.
But from a customer standpoint, that's good.
It is. It's great.
It's fabulous. As opposed to where we have to do on this side of the border, which is I have to log in every place. Or I mean, I can use the data plan on my phone, but you don't want to do that.
No. Well, and I mean, in the U.S. right now, I have an AT&T plan, and I mean, I have a very minimal amount. It's unlimited. I have unlimited, but it's up to 10 gigs high speed, and then after that, it crawls down. If I paid only $25 more, Bill, I'd have unlimited high-speed LTE internet anywhere where I need to be. That's for my US business. So I share that with you because it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to really revolutionize the internet world where we go. So when you come home, if everyone in the house has a shared plan like they do here, you can imagine that you wouldn't need to have with 5G connections I'm referring to. It'd be difficult in rural areas, but you'll be able to actually connect everything on the internet from your cellular plan.
Casey on Twitter just says the Amazon trunky thing only works on certain vehicles, so it's kind of like what we said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Ford has that, and I'm sure there are other models that do that. You know, and it's with an app, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess they'll call you and say, "Adam, I'm at your car.
Pop your trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me your keys. I'm going for a ride."
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the Twitter.
Thank you.
Another tweet from another of our listeners on the program. That's kind of cool. 20 years now that the smartphone's been in business.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I know, right? And I was just talking to my father. He's got a flip phone, and we were making a joke about this when I was with my dad the other day. When he popped open the phone, I go, "Dad, what is it?" He goes, "Do you know how to use that, son? That's where you just talk on it. You don't have to type anything." So anyway, what was funny was it's been 20 years the smartphone has actually been around. So I thought, I did a little research. Now there's more than this. There was like a top 10, but I thought I would do the top 3 all-time worst smartphones ever made. And these are based on a couple things. User practicality, meaning did users enjoy it? What was the user experience like? Number 2, was it recalled, damageable? Would it explode? And number 3 was it was just not working. It just didn't work at all, period. It was just a waste of space, and there's too much competition.
Start at 3.
You're doing that because you have a bit of a soft spot for this one. Number 3 was the BlackBerry Storm. That was one of the top. Actually, it was number 1 on the list. But BlackBerry Storm was actually ranked, and the reason why is because it was the first, before there was Samsung touchscreens and iPhone X's and everything else. This was the first smartphone that was completely no keyboard, no buttons. And the BlackBerry Storm was a full screen display, but you had to actually push on the screen, and you felt the screen push in all the time. Well, it never really took off. It was probably a little ahead of its time. I mean, that was more than 15 years ago, if you can believe it. And now we can see that the BlackBerry Storm made it all worse. In fact, the little joke inside RIM, at the time it was called RIM, was that it was called the, well, I won't say what the word is, but it was a crap storm kind of idea. So anyway.
I had the Bold, but I mean, this was the Cadillac.
That's right. Yeah, that was the high end, and it never really sold well. And then, of course, number 2 is the Galaxy Note 7. Yes, Without fail, it was one of those. It was a great phone. Not that anybody got a chance to use it, but it exploded and was just horrible. And the number 1 was the Amazon Fire. Yes, the number 1 worst phone ever made was Amazon. Ironically, you and I were just speaking about, look what Amazon's doing. And last week we spoke about them coming out with a new phone. They haven't learned from their experience. Anyway, worst phone ever made was the Fire. They couldn't give it away. They discounted it to $50, and they still couldn't get rid of it. In fact, there's rumor they just sent it off to a recycling plant.
But how they have changed over the years from those days, and from the flip phone and everything else.
That's right. Yes.
I was listening on the Comedy Network. There's one of the, I can't remember the comedian's name, but he says, "My phone is a seldom used app on my phone." He says, "What are you calling me for? Text me. Don't call me. Text me and ask me if I can."
That's right. What is this?
We've changed our whole mindset now.
That's right.
Nobody wants to talk on the phone anymore.
No, you're wasting time.
Remember those that used to be a joke in the, you'd say, "Oh, you picked up. I was hoping to get your machine." You don't have to call them anymore.
No, I don't even do that. Yeah.
Talk to that person.
Let's save everybody the aggravation of having this discussion.
Siri, call Adam. Because I can't be bothered.
That's right.
We digress. Pilot.
Yeah, this is something we heard a lot about translation. Listen, you know what? We talked about how you can basically learn a 15th language or whatever. These buds are only $249. They're called Pilot from Waverly Labs. They are available right now. You can buy them. You put the earbuds inside, and it will instantly translate no matter the language. And apparently they got over 50 of them. Whatever the language is in your vicinity, if they're speaking it, you're going to hear it. And this is now available. You can now buy it. We've heard about it, by the way. We talked about it on TechTalk. You can now purchase these products, and you can now put it in your ear, and you'll be able to hear everything.
I've got a few minutes left here. I want to talk about Apple and what they're doing with the MacBook Pro.
Yeah, MacBook Pro, if you've got a 13-inch within the last 2 years, the batteries are on a recall. So you're going to want to definitely take advantage of that. Go to the Apple website. You're going to want to submit your name into that. On a side note with Apple, on the replacing batteries, they've got also a new robot, and it's called Daisy. And Daisy, by the way, is able to recycle iPhones. And this is actually really cool. Apple's getting right into the whole we need to recycle, because if you're the one of the top selling phones of all time, Daisy is capable of taking all those phones when you recycle them, when you bring them back to the Apple store, it will take it apart to almost 95% accuracy, removing all of the components that normally would have went to a landfill site. It's quite amazing, but it's a robot that literally dismantles, pulls out all of the batteries, pulls out all the motherboard, all the wiring, separates it, and puts them in the proper recycling point. That's pretty cool.
On that point, by the way, interesting enough, and I don't want to get into the politics of what's going on with the Mueller investigation down in the States, and Michael Cohen, Trump's attorney, that they raided his place. But the story is, I'm sure a lot of folks have heard this, when they seized records and everything from Cohen's offices, 25 cell phones, I think it was, or something like that.
Right.
And they said a lot of them have been scrubbed, and the guy said, no, they haven't. He thinks he's scrubbed them.
Yeah, no.
Once the data is there, they said, we can get stuff off all of them.
Unless you technically, I mean, there's certain ways of how many times you can be able to scrub something. They actually overwrite it but the information is they refer to it as ghosted. That's where when you use a product, a phone, a computer, or otherwise, and it says you've erased it, and you could do like the 16 times overwrite, it's still technically there. Data is always kept somewhere in the memory of any kind of electronic device, your phone, your laptop, or otherwise. And the only way, the true only way to get rid of your information is to take out the hard drive and put it into a shredder and watch it get mashed into 1,000 million pieces.
Which apparently this guy did not do.
No, he did not.
Who's ever going to want these?
Yeah, and you know what? When you hit the I'm deleting it and it says, would you like to do the super delete? Yes, I do. You're still not super deleting, folks. Yeah. No, you're just making it longer for it to recover the data.
Super delusional if you think that's working.
That's right.
Talk now. Okay, back to new phones. LG.
Yeah, well, LG is now coming out with a, we saw this with the Samsung, and I thought this was ingenious. LG came out with a button where they had the Bixby button on Galaxy, Samsung. Now they've got it for the LG, but it's going to use Google Assistant, which, by the way, I love Google Assistant. I mean, if I have to look at them, you and I spoke about that. There's Alexa, Siri, there's Bixby. This is amazing. Google Assistant as a button, you hit it, instantly you got Google Assistant instead of constantly referring to the OK, whatever you want to mention. This hits a button. LG, congratulations. It might actually be a contender in the smartphone market.
So how does it work?
You would hit the button. Instantly we would hear the ding, very similar to Siri, right? And you would control or submit your commands into the phone, and it will use Google Assistant to do everything. And it's becoming the strongest of all the voice assistants that's on the market right now.
Does it talk back to you?
Yes, absolutely. Of course it does.
What voices can you get?
Actually, you can get only one right now.
I'm the kind of guy that go to the car lot and I say, what color can I get?
Yeah, I know. I think you get one voice with Google right now. It's the female voice. I know. I know. I apologize on behalf of Google.
The British guy? Sounds like John Oliver.
Well, all of a sudden you'd have everybody trying to repeat the same examples, and it would be too difficult to get everybody to read it. It's just way too much.
Well, then they need to do some revisions. We're out of time. Thanks as always. We do this every Friday, 11:35. TechTalk with Adam Oldfield. I'll see you next week.
Thanks.